on breaking the stigma surrounding COVID-19. As we may know, a lot has changed since we last spoke on this topic in June. The number of confirmed COVID cases have increased drastically in South Africa. In recent days, Gauteng has overtaken the Western Cape as the new epicenter. Not all of us are infected, but we are all affected. And I ask the question, if we are all affected, why are we discriminating or stigmatizing those that are infected? Most of us know of people close to us that have tested positive for COVID-19 and those that have passed on due to COVID-19 related cases. And some of them are close family members, friends, colleagues, and so forth. So there is no excuse really to say that COVID-19 is a myth. Recently, it has been noted that COVID-19 could also be airborne under certain circumstances. And that gives me the chills, to be honest. There seems to be an increased stigmatization surrounding COVID-19. The stigma has shifted to those that have recovered from COVID-19 as well. You know, these people suffer what you call a double stigma, because from the time they get infected and they're diagnosed, they're stigmatized. And then they recover. Once they've recovered, they go back home to their day-to-day activities. They still get to be discriminated and stigmatized. So we ask, what is stigma? It's a strong feeling of disapproval that most people in society have about something. It's a mark of disgrace that is associated with a particular circumstance or quality or person. So the origin of stigma is that in the past, criminals, slaves, or traitors would have their skin cut or their skin burned in order to identify them visibly as blemished so that they can be avoided in public places. What are the synonyms for the word stigma? It's shame, disgrace, dishonor, stain, taint, blot, blemish. I gave this example last time and I want to give the same example again. Imagine yourself wearing a nice, beautiful red dress. That is a stain or a blemish. What happens when you appear there, you know, people will see the stain in that dress. They won't see the beauty of the stain. They just see the stain. So that's what happens to the stigma. People don't see you for who you are. They just see COVID-19 in you. And that is totally wrong. So social stigma occurs when fear, anxiety, and information about something causes you to associate it with a specific person or group of people. With fear surrounding COVID-19 in particular, the anxiety levels are higher than expected. Stigmatization is especially common in disease outbreaks. For example, if you remember in the mid-1980s, early 90s, there was an outbreak of HIV and AIDS. And we all know what happened then. Many people were stigmatized, discriminated. You know, people were discriminated even by their family members. They were banned, they were killed, they were removed from their communities because of being associated with HIV and AIDS. But over the years, things changed because people had to work on this issue of stigma. Remember, stigma is as old as the biblical times. You know, the people who had leprosy during the biblical times were also stigmatized. But we need to learn as a community to address the issue of stigma. Because like I said, we are all affected by the stigma, by the COVID. What are the effects of social stigma? Gossip, social rejection, and denial of services, including public transport, education, unemployment. I just want to give you an example of social rejection. On Wednesday morning, whilst watching Morning Live, there was a feature about this young man from Rustenburg who has recovered from COVID-19. He was discharged, he went back home, everything was nice, but as soon as he arrived back home, they decided to print pictures of his face. And they wrote the message on the picture that so-and-so has COVID-19. And they highlighted that picture, you know, so that everyone can read that this person has COVID-19. And they started to post those pictures everywhere around the community. Imagine in this day and age, putting people through that. It was so difficult for him. He even had to go to the police commander to report this. It was difficult for him to go out because once he leaves his home, there's that community that is rejecting him, and stigmatizing him. And if it is confirmed that COVID-19 is also airborne, we are all in serious trouble. And we are busy stigmatizing people for nothing right now. Stigma can undermine social cohesion and prompt possible social isolation of groups, and it can contribute to the spread of the virus. The stigma can drive people to hide the illness in order to avoid discrimination. It can prevent people from practicing safe healthcare, and it can discourage them from adopting healthy behaviors. Stigma surrounding COVID-19 could also negatively affect one's health, because people may likely not seek treatment if they suspect they are infected, because considering how they'll be treated with regards to stigma. So such barriers that I'm talking about could potentially contribute to more severe health problems, ongoing transmissions, and difficulties controlling the infectious disease. Like, for example, if you go and test for COVID-19 and your result is positive, you have to contact your immediate contacts, the people you were in contact with during that particular time. Now imagine when there is stigma, whether a person will go to those people and tell them that I am COVID-19 positive. Chances are they might not, if they think they'll be stigmatized. And what will happen? Those people, you'll find that they are also somehow positive. They might not know that they are positive, and they might spread the virus unknowingly. So we need to avoid stigma by all costs. How do we fight social stigma? We all have an important role to play in preventing and stopping stigma. It's not the role of the government. Each and every one of us must play a part. Number one, we must not use labels. What do I mean by that? We must separate the identity from the illness. We must respect the person for who they are, the person that is diagnosed. Okay, when you see me, if I'm diagnosed with COVID-19, you must see me for who I am as Pearl and not COVID. All right? You must, when you look at that dress that I spoke about, you must see my beautiful dress and not the blemish on that dress. So we must not refer to people with the condition as COVID-19 victims. Neither should we refer to their families as COVID-19 families. We should refer to those people as someone who has COVID-19 or someone recovering from COVID-19. That is very important. Again, we must not make assumptions that when you see someone in a hospital going for tests, we must not assume they are testing for COVID-19. People have been going to hospitals for tests. They've been testing for all sorts of things. I mean, even now we're in the flu season, people are testing. So for us to assume that this person is testing for COVID is irresponsible, because you end up sharing that information, and then that information is spread and people are stigmatized unnecessarily. And in any case, there's nothing wrong in testing for COVID. All right, number two, we must stick to the facts. Stigma can be heightened by insufficient knowledge. So knowing the facts can help us not to spread fake information, and it can prevent stigma. We must get accurate information about COVID-19 based on scientific data. There are reputable sources that we can find this information. Our government, for example, we do get SMSs every second day or so about the updates on the COVID-19. We do watch news, we do listen to radio, there is WHO, there is NICD. There are a number of reputable sources where we can get accurate information. And then this information, we must share accurate information about how the virus is spread. This includes the media representative, because sometimes media people do get it wrong. And imagine when the media spread inaccurate information, what it does, because now recently we learned that COVID-19 could be airborne, but other reporters are reporting it as if it's a fact. They're reporting it as if it is really airborne. But WHO said it could be airborne. So we must be very careful about the information that we share. Don't repeat or share unconfirmed information. We must avoid using the language that could spread fear, such as plague. Plague is associated with a curse, like in biblical times. So COVID-19 is not a plague. COVID-19 is not a curse. No one goes out there and asks for COVID. We must emphasize the effectiveness of prevention and treatment measures. rather than living in the, or talking about negative messages. The third one, we must not reinforce stigma. We must maintain the privacy and confidentiality of those who have tested positive for COVID-19. It is very important that we must give them that space. Those who want to disclose their status will disclose. In fact, people are disclosing. You know, we've got prominent people disclosing, high-profile people, ordinary people disclosing their status. And I think that is good, because in that way, we all know that COVID-19 does not discriminate. Anyone can get COVID-19, you know. So we must not go out there. It is not our responsibility to go out there on behalf of someone and spread the message. What I've seen again about confidentiality, I saw a clip on ETV, I think it was, where they were talking about, the program, it's called Remembering, I think. So what happens there on ETV, if you have a family member who has died as a result of COVID-19, you can register with that program, and then you talk about your loved ones, the experiences they've gone through, and the experiences you've gone through as a family, the ups and downs of the COVID. And in that way, it helps for the family to heal, and it helps us as a community to accept COVID-19. Thus, we cannot stigmatize. We must speak out against stigma and negative behavior, whether it be online or person. For example, when people share negative things about certain groups of people online or talk to you about it on WhatsApp groups and so forth, you know, we've got a tendency of forwarding. We should stop that, you know. We must question that. I mean, the person who's forwarding, must ask them, are you sure about this? Is it a fact? Because spreading rumors is detrimental, and stigma is destructive. We must interrogate information and its sources before you share it online. We have said that. Be cautious about the images that are shared online, because that also reinforces stigma. We must continue to treat all people with dignity and be empathetic towards them. We must share positive news about COVID-19. There is positive news in the midst of COVID-19. For example, the number of recoveries. And there are people who go online as well, sharing their positive stories, their recovery stories. There's a story that I heard on TV again. You must think this woman likes TV. Yes, I like TV because that's the source of information. So this gentleman is a male nurse. He was, he had COVID-19, and then, but he recovered. He was hospitalized for, I think, about 2 weeks in ICU. He recovered from that, but now his fear, he came on TV, but in disguise, because he said he doesn't want to show his face for fear of stigmatization. Can you imagine now? He's a nurse. So he's also fearful of going back to the workplace, because he says, if I go back there, I must go back to that ward and see the bed where I was lying. And the patients will also see me, and I was recovering from COVID. These are all the effects of stigma. If we don't fight stigma, we're going to have serious problems. The fourth one, we need to engage the people. We all need to be intentional and thoughtful when communicating on social media, on communication platforms. We must show supportive behaviors around COVID-19. We must raise awareness about COVID-19 without increasing fear. Engage with stigmatized groups in person and through media channels. Talk to them, WhatsApp them, phone them, support them, love them. You know, they need that. We must correct the misconceptions whilst acknowledging that people's feelings and subsequent behavior are real, even if their underlying assumptions are false. We must communicate support for those working in the front line. I can't overemphasize that. You know, today we're in day 106, I think, of lockdown. And these people in the front line have been there with us from day one. Every single day they go out there risking their lives for us in order to make the situation better for us. You know, they are at risk of contracting this virus. They are at risk of contracting this virus and taking it to their very own family members. So if anything that we should do is to support them, give them love, you know, pray for them. They are real. They are our heroes. They are our heroes. We must encourage those that are stigmatized to undergo counseling together with their family members. That is very important, because if you don't go through counseling, you might experience post-traumatic stress disorder. So it's very crucial that you go for counseling, unpack your feelings, talk about your fears, your worries. Those things need to be addressed. Even your family members, because they are also stigmatized, they need to get counseling on how to handle this as a family. They also need to get counseling on how to support you as the individual that is stigmatized. So with that, I say thank you as I end my presentation, and I would like to acknowledge the sources of information where I derived the information for this presentation. Thank you very much.
The University of Johannesburg, the future reimagined.